Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. So in this section, we'll be talking about CSS animation. In our previous video, we discussed CSS transition. So here, we are going to discuss CSS animation because CSS animation and transition goes hands in hand, right? They work hand in hand. Proceeding, CSS animation make it possible to animate transition from one CSS style configuration to another. You hear me right? CSS animation make it possible to animate transitions from one CSS style configuration to another. So it consists of two ways. So in CSS animation, we talk of two ways, which is styling a style, that is CSS, the animation itself, animation property, that is the style that describe the CSS animation, and the set of what? Keyframe. There's this thing we call at keyframe rule. So this is what you use to indicate or to effect CSS animation in an element. So moving forward, so the at keyframe rule indicate the start and the end state of an animation style. That is to say, when you make use of at keyframe rule, you have to indicate where you want the element to start animating and where you want the element to stop animating. So proceeding, we have some styling that is associated with CSS animation, which include the animation name, just as we have in transition, we have the transition property. So here it is called animation name. So, and this name is what is normally used on the at keyframe rule. So the next one we have is the animation duration, that is indicating how long you want the animation to last. So the next one we have is the animation iteration count. It's just like loop, the number of time you want it to continue running, something like that, like a loop. So we have, you can integrate it to be once or you can integrate it to be infinity. So the next one is what? The animation direction. So just like the direction you want the animation to move, do you want it to go normal, or do you want it to go reverse, or do you want it to go alternative, or do you want it to go zigzag? Just depends on what you want to achieve. So the next one is what we call the animation timing function, just as we have in transition. So the next one is what? The animation delay. That is how long you want the element to stay before it starts the animation. So let's quickly dive into a project to demonstrate what we are saying. So for example, here I have my, let's say, a div called, let's say, ball. So here's my div, right? So over here in my CSS, let me just tie this my I have my element div with class name of ball. So over here in my CSS, let me style it. So I have my dots, let's say dot ball, this. So I have my height should be what? Let's say 50 pesos. Oh shit. Okay, height 50 pesos. Then that of width, I have it to be what? Still 50 pesos, right? So I can decide to have a background color, a background color of white. So I can start to have border radius, because if you check my browser, this is what I have, right? So I can start to have border radius of what? 50%. So making it to be what? Complete circle. So let me just increase this my width and height. I can make it 70. I can make it 70. So I have something like this. So let's continue our styling. So we're going to call it, give it a position of what? Relative, right? So down here we're now going to add our what? Animation. So this animation property is what is going to enable us to do what? To add the animation effect to the element. So here we're going to add our animation name. So let me say animation name to be ball. Okay, let me still add the ball. So now I'm going to add my animation duration, that is how long I want it to last. So I can add 1 seconds. So the next one is I can add the animation timing function. So I can decide to say, okay, let my animation timing function be this, is in out, right? So okay, so down here This is now where I will now define or add the animation effect. So as I said earlier, here in animation, we make use of the at keyframe rule. So this at keyframe. So I will now mention that my animation name that I called. So over here, in my own case, I have ball. So I will call the ball. So what this? I will now put it like this. So remember, animation specify the in the so remember, in this at keyframe rule, it indicates the start state. Now that is where you want the animation to start and where it will end, right? So here I'm going to have something like from, right? I can now say, okay, from top to be 0, to what? Top to be what? Let's say 200 pesos. So I have something like this, right? So if I go over to my browser, I see I didn't notice anything, right? So if I refresh, you see, it's only when you refresh you now see something. So okay, but now let me now add some animation direction so that we can see how this our animation is going to work. So here I'm going to add, let me just use the one normal. So I tell you, see, just move once. So it moved once, right? So okay. So let's make use of the second one, which is reverse. So reverse is just the opposite of normal. You see, normal move from top to down and then return back to the original state. But reverse is just trying to take the opposite direction of normal. That is, instead of moving from top to down, it will now move from bottom to up. I hope you guys notice it. If I refresh it, you see, let me refresh my page once again. So you see, it's them to start from down instead of up. So that is for this reverse. So the another one we have is what we call the alternate. So you notice what happened? Alternate is just like the reverse of what? Normal. So instead of it starting from top again, it will tends to start from what? Below. That is after the first count. So the next one we have is that of the loop, which is infinity. So if you see how it's going. So it will start from the top, move downwards, and then return back to original state, start again, move downward, just like that as loop, continuously until you stop it. So, but this is not what we want to achieve. What we have in mind to achieve is to have something like a bouncing ball, like a ball that will be bouncing, moving from top to down, top to down, top to down continuously. So how could we achieve this? How we're going to achieve it is we just come here, we add two animation direction, such as we add the alternate and we can add the infinite. Or we can do it like this, add the infinite and then add the alternate. So over there in my browser, so you can see it. So you can see how it thing works, right? Good. So how this thing works is with the effect of this at keyframe rule. So what this scope or this syntax is saying is that it's telling my browser I want this element to move from top 0 to top what 200. So if you see, here is top 0, here is top 200, here is top 0, here is top 200. So when it's at the top, when it is here, it is on top 0. When you move down, it is on top 200. So that's how you move continuously. So this is moving like this. I'm able to achieve this bouncing ball because of what? These two things. So at infinity. So then alternatives means when it has finished making the first state, it should come back again. So infinity is making it to continuously. So from here, go down, come back, go down, come back, go down, come back. That is the effect of what? Infinity. But that of alternate means once you have reached to the extreme, that is after moving, instead of you returning to your original state, you start from that last state and then move back to the what the original state. That's what alternate means. So I can decide to have another project, or let me say another demo. So okay, let me call this a loader. Let me just try to do something like a loader. Okay, so I will have here, let's say dot loader, and then I can decide to have my height to be what, let's say 50 pesos, right? Then width, okay, the same 50 pesos still. Okay, so I have my border. Let me have my border to be what, let's say one, or let's say 2 pesos solid. 2 pesos solid. Let me give it a color code DDD. Okay, so over here, let's see what we have. We have something like this. Good. So but let's try to increase it, let's say to 5. Okay, so we have something like this. So you can see our border is higher, is more solid. So what we're going to do is to come back here again, and then add a border top. Okay, let's say a border top color, a border top color. Good. So what we're going to add here, let's just add a color code still. Let's say 221, something like this. Okay, we have something like this. So when you go over to this, you can see it. So we have something like this. So now what next we are going to do is to give it a round shape. So you can add it border radius to be 50%. So let's go. You see, it's now a total circle, right? So we can still proceed and then add our animation property. So enable us to add the animation effect to this element. So I can have my animation. So now the first thing is to make use of my animation name, because that's the name I'm going to make use of at keyframe rule. So I can have it, okay, let me just call it spin. Good, this is the animation name. So let me just say 2 seconds. Okay, so I want it to move linear, and then move at infinity. So linear means I want it just to move linear. Is one of the animation direction. So I want it to move linear. That is like moving in one line. So, and that's of infinity. So with this, I can now come down here and then state my at keyframe rule. This is my keyframe rule. So I will now mention my animation name. That is this thing I have here. I will now call the spin here. So what I'm going to do now is to put something like this. I will now mention 2. So because I want to achieve a continuous rotation, so I don't need to add from, because from just like move from this state to this state. But this one I'm trying to achieve something that will just continue rounding on a particular stop. So what I'm going to make use of is just 2, and then I'll now call a transform property. Then I'll now say rotate, let's say 360 degrees, something like this, right? So over here in my browser, you see, I have something like this. You see, size rotating. So this is my border top color that I added. So because of this infinity, the thing continues to load continuously. Something like that, something like that. I know some of you will be like, it is slow. It's because of my duration. So if I convert this duration to 1, so it, you see, it will be like faster. You see, it's now going faster, 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 and so on and so forth. So with this, I hope you enjoyed this video, and with this we have come to the end of this video. See you in the next one.